My gum, that's loud, isn't it? Item 3 of our agenda, which is to see if members approve of minutes of our previous meetings, which are printed on your agenda on pages 3 to 6. Are members content that they're a correct record of our previous proceedings? Yes. Again, I see a sea of nodding heads, so I'm going to assume that there are no objections to those minutes. That takes us to our first substantive item, item 4. Now, item 4, you will see there is a supplementary report for item 4. And what that report says is that we are still outstanding comments from the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust. The recommendation, therefore, is that this item be deferred till our meeting on the 1st of February so that we can receive those comments. And I propose to take a vote on that before having any other part of the debate, which would be futile were we to decide to defer. So I'm going to move deferral from the chair. I see a seconder for that in Councillor Northcott. Could I see, please, those in favour of this item being deferred? And that is unanimous. That case, we'll progress to item number 5, the application for major development, former car showroom, Blackfriars Road, here in Newcastle. We have, I believe, a public speaker on this matter. Ms. Critchlow is going to speak in favour of the application. So before I ask our officer if there's anything further we need to know, could I just ask that she be brought into the meeting room, please? And just for the benefit of IT, we can see nothing here at the moment. So I don't know if have we now got...
She is coming online. I've got her on my end, but she's got no camera and she's got no sound at the moment.
Right. So if Miss Critchlow can hear us, perhaps you need to unmute yourself. If you could indicate that you can participate, that will be good.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're a little bit distant. I don't know if you can turn your microphone up a little.
Let me try. Hold on one sec. That's full sound now. Right. Is that okay?
I can just about hear you. I don't know about other members I'm getting nodding heads. So before we progress, what I'm going to do is ask our officers if there's any further information we need to know of this evening before you speak to us.
Okay.
No, there's nothing further to report at this time. Thank you.
In that case, let me just outline the speaking protocol for those who may be participating and don't know it. So Ms. Critchlow has 5 minutes to address the committee. They'll be timed by our clerk, who's sitting to my right. And after 4 of those 5 minutes have elapsed, he will give an oral warning to make sure that no points are missed out that our speaker thinks are essential. Those 5 minutes will be the sum total of Ms. Critchlow's contribution to our debate this evening. So on those terms, Ms. Critchlow, whenever you're ready, please do address the meeting.
Thank you. I'm hoping it won't take 5 minutes at all. Good evening, Chair, members and officers. This is a relatively straightforward application which seeks consent to change the use of the existing retail store with ancillary storage to a motorcycle dealership, including sales, servicing, repairs and MOTs. The site lies within the urban area of Newcastle as indicated on the local development framework proposals map and within the Pool Dam waterside quarter as indicated in the Newcastle Town Centre supplementary planning document. The application site comprises previously developed land, which has historically been used as a car showroom until an application in 2018 allowed it to be converted for use by the Donna Louise Trust. Whilst that retail use was implemented, the use ceased in February 2021 and the site has remained vacant since that time. Both local and national planning policies support development that makes efficient use of land and which enhance the vitality and viability of the town centre. The proposed change of use will be carried out entirely within the shell of the existing building with no alterations or extensions proposed. Adequate parking and manoeuvring space is already provided within the application site, which is located within an accessible edge of town location with a public pay and display car park adjacent. The proposed use is not anticipated to give rise to any adverse amenity issues in terms of its location and relationship with surrounding units or neighbouring land uses, especially having regard to the interrelationship of uses, operational hours and fallback position of the site as a retail use. The proposed development would allow an important vacant building to be brought back into a beneficial reuse, and it would also result in job creation and assist the economic health of the town and the wider area. Given that the proposed development complies with the council's adopted development plan policies, as well as guidance contained within the MPPF, and in the absence of any technical objections, it is hoped that members can support the officer recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I open the item to debate, I'll just ask our officer if there's any comments that they wish to make on what they've heard so far.
No comment, thank you.
In that case, I open the item for comment from members. Councillor Northcott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Happy New Year to you all. This site has been well known for a number of years now. As far as I'm concerned, it ticks the boxes in terms of bringing it back into use again. The actual impact of this application isn't going to change much from what has been there before previously. I see that there's no material planning considerations to vote against this. And I, for one, would be happy to move this for approval to the recommendation of subject to the officer's conditions. So I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have we, Councillor Reddish? I
was going to say, I mean, it's a site I know very well, and I'm quite happy to second Councillor Northcott to permit this application.
Any further comment from members? In that case, we've had resolution to permit this, both proposed and seconded. Could I see those please in favour of permitting as per the recommendation? And that I think is unanimous.
Thank you.
That means we can move to item 6 on our agenda, an application for major development land at New Road, Madeley. Once again, we have a public speaker, supporter of the application, Mr. Weatherly. Again, could I ask that he be brought into the room before I ask our officer whether we have any further information?
Been brought into the meeting.
Could I just ask Mr. Weatherly whether you are now in the room? I have no way of knowing at the moment, looking at the monitor I've got.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes. So before I invite you to speak again, I just want to ask our officer whether there's any further information that we need before you speak so that you're apprised of it as well.
Thank you, Chair. No, there's no further information to report. Thank you.
In that case, once again, if I may, I'll just run through the speaking protocol in case anyone has joined the meeting after our last item. So Mr. Weatherly will have 5 minutes to address the committee. There'll be time to the clerk by our clerk, who is sitting to my right, and who will give an oral warning when 4 of those 5 minutes have elapsed to make sure that no important points are missed out. Those 5 minutes will be the sum total of Mr. Weatherly's contribution to our proceedings this evening. And on those terms, I now invite him to address the meeting, beginning when he feels happy to do so.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members, and Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this item on behalf of the applicant. This application seeks to vary a single condition to the extant planning permission for 32 dwellings on land at New Road in Madeley. The existing full planning permission was granted in September 2019. The purpose of this application is to revise the design of the individual homes to accommodate the house types of the intended developer, Duchy Homes, who are the applicant. It is, by its very nature, an application for minor material amendments to the already approved development. The principle of development and number of new dwellings is already established and not up for debate or consideration as part of the determination of this application. Indeed, Duchy Homes can implement the already approved development if they wish, or if permission was not secured for their own proposed house type. So that's the background, the context to this application before you this evening. For the avoidance of doubt, this application utilises the approved access and same general road and housing layout. It only proposes amendments to the form and appearance of the homes themselves to suit Duchy Homes house types, with them having acquired the site since the previous permission was granted. Duchy Homes is a reputable house builder and intends to progress the site's redevelopment as swiftly as possible. Moreover, Duchy Homes build high quality dwellings, and as a result, their purchase of the site and intention to build out the approved development within it would result in enhancements to this northern edge of the village by comparison to the current approved scheme. The high quality of the proposed homes is evident on the proposed elevations and street scenes that have been provided with this application. In addition, as a result of the finer details of the proposed revisions to the homes inside the southern boundary of the site specifically, the amendments would achieve betterment in terms of their impact on the amenity of residents of the adjoining homes on Woodside to the south, which are the only existing dwellings that directly adjoin the development. Some members may recall that was an issue for debate and consideration as part of the previous planning permission and the site's extensive planning history before that. This improvement would be achieved by a reduction in windows overlooking the existing dwellings on Woodside. It's not something that's been required to satisfy your officers, but something Duchy Homes have done very willingly. The preparation of this application as part of that was informed by detailed engagement with the local community, including both ward councillors and local residents, to appraise them of the proposed revisions to the development and to inform its final detail. This culminated in no material objections from third parties, whilst Duchy Homes has committed to continue liaising with local residents throughout the construction phase of the new homes. The only matters relevant to the determination of this application are whether the proposed variations to the design and appearance of the approved homes and their impact on the amenity of occupiers are acceptable. In those respects, I assert that the proposed dwellings would achieve a high quality development with material improvements upon the appearance of the current approved homes and their resulting impact on the character and appearance of the area broadly and the amenity of adjoining residents specifically. Furthermore, as confirmed in your officer's report, there is no objection to the proposed amendments from any consultees or any material objections from third parties, and your officers have recommended approval of this application. Duchy Homes have also made further improvements to the proposed amendments to the development during the course of this application in response to observations from consultees, which has been welcomed by your officers. In our view, this proposed variation to condition 2 of the existing permission in order to amend the design of the approved homes is not controversial in any way, but rather a beneficial amendment to the already permitted development of the site to provide 32 dwellings. Furthermore, given Duchy Homes' commitment to this site, your approval of this application would assist with bringing the site's redevelopment forward in a timely manner and consequently deliver homes on this site that form an important part of the council's housing land supply. With all these considerations in mind, I trust you will concur with me and your officers that this application is acceptable, and on behalf of the applicant, I respectfully encourage its approval to assist with bringing forward the delivery of the already approved homes within this site. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Before I open the item for comment, again, I'll just ask our officer if he wishes to make any comments on what he's heard so far.
No further comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, I open the item for comment from members. I draw members' attention to the fact there's a short supplementary report on this matter, but also remind them that this is not a debate about the principle of development here. It's very specifically about the variation of house types. So I look for comment from members. Councillor Holland, then Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Chair. In the main report, it refers to the comments that we received from the Staffordshire Police Crime Prevention Design Advisor. Have we taken those into account and determined that we're happy to approve it anyway, or are we ignoring the comments of the police about potential for antisocial behaviour or crime as a result of poor overlooking in some parts of the proposed design?
I'll ask our officer if they can answer that question, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. As far as the comments from the Police Crime Prevention Design Advisor are concerned, is that applicant took upon themselves to take those on board and incorporate changes into the scheme to address many of the comments that were made. I think your officers are content that the applicant has taken on board those comments and made improvements to an acceptable level. So officers are satisfied that the scheme is acceptable from that perspective. Thank you.
Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question has just been addressed there about the police statement. If anything, I'm probably going to be a little bit disappointed with this, actually, in terms of the actual house types. I'm disappointed that Maidley at the moment is crying out for 3-bedroom and below in terms of accommodation. I'm a little bit saddened to see that that's been a reduction from the original plan that was approved. That's the only comment I wish to make, Chair, is the disappointment, the fact that there's 4 bedrooms replacing 3-bedroom ones when there's families actively looking for accommodation on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of affordability. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
I think Mr. Bromley wishes to make a comment at this juncture.
Obviously, since receiving the parish council comments about the properties and the number of bedrooms, I have taken the opportunity to look at the approved plan by the previous developer, and the number of 3 beds on that permission is the same as what's been proposed now. So on the original application, there were 6 properties that were 2 beds. 9 properties that were 3 beds and 17 properties that were 4 beds. The current planning application before you tonight, it's exactly the same, is that 6 number 2 beds, 9 number 3 beds and 17 4 beds. So in that respect, the scheme hasn't changed. But obviously the parish council have taken the view that they have. Thank you.
I'll withdraw my comment then. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments from members? Councillor Holland.
Happy to propose as recommended on the basis that those design changes have been made. I think that's fantastic that the police's advice has been heeded there as well.
I see Councillor Northcott, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, is willing to second that. Could I therefore see those in favour of the application as printed? And that again, I think, is unanimous. That allows us to move to item 7 of our agenda, application for major development at 1 London Road, the former Bristol Street Ford site, here again in Newcastle. We have no supplementary on this. Again, I'll just ask our officer if any further information has emerged since the compilation of the report.
No, nothing further. Thank you.
In that case, I open the item for comment from members. Councillor Reddish.
Thank you. I'm a bit nervous about this this application. If memory serves me correctly, we had a discussion last time about street parking and parking spaces, and we concluded, I think, that because at that stage it was student accommodation, that students don't have cars, question mark. So now it's come back and it's for non-students as well. I am quite concerned really that there is going to be a parking issue around this site. I know precedent has probably been set with the town centre apartments by the multi-storey car park, but that's a slightly different scenario because they did have the choice of using the multi-storey car park. I'd be interested to know from officers really whether we really have to go for 2024 or whether there could be a compromise in that we give permission for 12 months just to see how the parking pans out. I mean, if it's fine, then perhaps they can come back and apply for some more, and if it's not fine, we can review it. So I think my concerns are on parking. And I'm just wondering if there is a compromise that we can have here.
Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Chair. My major concern is we've previously given this application an extension to August 2022, I believe. And now they're coming back to us for a further extension. When, if ever, will this stop? Do we as a council draw a line under the matter and say no? Or do we keep carrying this application before us for further extensions? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't know if our officer can respond to those comments.
Yes, thank you. Well, firstly, I just want to say that unlike the scheme in the town centre, there is a reasonable level of parking provided with this development. That of 148 spaces are included on the site, but I mean, I have to acknowledge that is below the maximum standard set out in policy T16 of the local plan, which is 665. But there is some parking, and as you are aware, the condition has been relaxed for a period of time now, due to expire on the 31st of August 2022. So there has been a period of time when some consideration could be given to issues of parking, and we're not aware of any issues arising. But again, I acknowledge that it's a limited period, and it is unknown how close to full occupation the development is at this stage. So I think it is a reasonable thing to consider the amount of time that the conditions should be varied for to enable, well, effectively a trial period and assess the matters, the issues that arise from it. So I think, although there is your officers aren't recommending such a reduction in the amount of time that they're requesting, it would, in the circumstances, be justified. You could argue that and make a valid planning case. So yes, you could go for 31st of August 2023, so a year shorter than what they're proposing. So that'll give a bit more than a year to assess the parking implications of occupation of that development by students and non-students. There is no reason why the applicant couldn't come back at a later date and apply again, but each time you consider an application for a temporary consent, you've got to consider whether enough's enough and whether that the time has come to say no, it's no longer acceptable, because by virtue of us granting planning permission for student accommodation, we set aside our normal requirements to provide affordable housing, and we reduced our normal requirements to make financial contributions to public open space off-site because of the nature of the occupants and the lack of families, although whether families would ever live in these units is another matter. So I think I would want to reassure members that by granting a further temporary extension of the period of time within which non-students could live in the unit, that doesn't mean that we will have no basis upon which to resist a future application of that nature. You can assess it at the time, and you will have had the period of time and will understand whether there is issues arising from it. And yeah, we would not be proposing to or recommending the approval of a permanent lifting of that restriction without addressing the affordable housing and the open space issues that we've adopted a particular approach to because of the nature of the occupation of the units being by students. So yeah, we wouldn't necessarily be forced to approve something at a later date. We can assess it on its planning merits at that stage.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cooper, then Councillor Holland, then Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Chair. I was just interested in the part where it's saying that the local hospital trust support the application and welcome the proposals. I mean, I can see that due to its proximity, that, you know, it might be useful for NHS workers, and given the current situation, you know, I can only see that as a positive thing, really. But I was just wondering if we knew that up to this point, they've already had an extension. Has it been used in that way before, during this period of extension that's already occurred, or? Thank you. Yes, our understanding is that there is some occupation of the units by workers from the hospital. We have no information as to the level of occupancy and what the split is between students and non-students. I believe that there are students in there, but yeah, as I understand that there are non-students occupying it, and yes, and the NHS Trust are very supportive of the use of the accommodation for that purpose.
Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Owen is quite right. If you keep extending the temporary permission for occupation of this site by non-students, it does open the door to the question being asked in future, well, we've done it for this long, why should we make that a permanent arrangement? And of course, that's not something that I would find acceptable, not because I have anything against particular types of people occupying a particular premises, but because officers have told us today, we have set aside our affordable housing requirements. We've set aside the requirements for a decent amount of parking because this was supposed to be a student development. And we have had applications like this in the past for this site, and for temporary consent for the occupation of the student accommodation, the purpose-built student accommodation at the site of the former Savoy Theatre. And I think I made some comments at the time of that application, which I'll paraphrase now, which is that I really feel there should be a way of punishing stupidity and greed on the part of promoters and developers of schemes like this. If they didn't feel they could flog it to students and they weren't confident of getting their financial kicks through the business model that they'd chosen, they shouldn't have applied for it in the first place, and we'd have a better standard of accommodation for all the people who live in the borough. That said, the NHS is keen after this. And of course, I agree with Councillor Cooper. This probably should have been promoted as a scheme for key workers in the first place, given its proximity to the town centre and to the Royal Stoke University Hospital. The reason it wasn't, presumably, is that the people behind the scheme thought they could make more money out of student accommodation. Student accommodation is what they've got, and the student accommodation is what they should cope with. So what I'm going to suggest is that I'm very supportive of what Councillor Reddish suggested, which is that we extend it for a year rather than 2. I have absolutely no expectation that we'll be in any kind of coronavirus situation come 2024. I have absolute confidence in the science that is rolling us out of this pandemic. And I think that pegging it to August is a good idea because, of course, we all know the academic year starts in September. So it would be appropriate and prudent for the landlord of these units to know that come September in 2023, that will be the appropriate time to start recruiting and making sure that those units are occupied by students as was intended. And if we do face the alternative, which is another request for an extension, at that point, I would very seriously be asking our officers to consider carefully how we can extract some of the things that we would have got out of this development in terms of affordable housing contribution at the very minimum as part of that consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Northcott.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Some of my thought process are along the line of Councillor Holland in terms of where we could be in danger of sleepwalking. I just wish to clarify with officers, is there a time consideration where something temporary can become permanent if this isn't brought to the planning committee again before I go on?
No, it wouldn't by default become permanent after a period of time. The condition will specify, assuming members agree to this, at the time when the restrictions or the lifting of the restrictions ends and the original restrictions apply. So if it goes beyond that, there will be a breach of condition and enforcement action could be taken if it's considered expedient to do so. So yeah, there's no risk that by default it becomes a permanent thing.
Thank you for that. That was my main concern, really, that we'd be sleepwalking into this. And in that case, then I would be minded to second a proposal, if it's forthcoming from one of my colleagues, that we peg this back to 1 year. Thank you very much.
So I think Councillor Reddish was effectively saying she wished to propose such a motion, and Councillor Holland was suggesting that he will be happy to second such a motion. Could I look to those two colleagues to see if that I'm correct in reading their minds?
Yes. I was going to. My next comment would have been to propose 2023. Councillor Holland has already said that, so that's fine.
I'll vote for it, but I'm content for Councillor Northcott to have the dignity and the glory associated with seconding.
Perhaps you can fight with our clerk afterwards for whose name is placed on the paper. But nonetheless, I think we do have a valid proposal, and I propose to move to a vote on that proposal. So what Councillor Reddish is proposing is that an extension be granted, but it be granted for only 1 year, not the 2 years. So we would move back from 2024 to 2023. Otherwise, the date, I think, Councillor, would remain the same. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. So could I see, please, given that that is a valid motion that's been put forward us, those in favour of the motion as proposed? And that is unanimous. That, therefore, takes us to item 8 on our agenda, which is an update on the matter at Boggs Cottages at Keele. As you can see, the report is very brief. I don't believe there is any additional information, but I'll just want to check with our officers.
No, there's no additional information.
In that case, it also falls to me to ask members whether they would wish this to recur on our agenda, not at the next meeting, but at the following meeting. And I see nodding heads. So again, if I could request that we have a further report in 2 meetings' time, please. That takes us to item 9 of our agenda, which is a very similar item. As you can see, once again, an update on the situation at Doddlespool in Betley. Again, I'll just ask our officers if there's any further information since that report has been compiled.
No, there isn't, Chair. Thank you.
Once again, I invite comment from members and also would ask them whether they would wish that this item too be subject to a further report in 2 meetings' time. Are there any further? I see nodding heads for that. So again, we will request that comes back to our meeting. Are there any further comments from members on the specifics of the report? In that case, we can move to our final item this evening, which is urgent business, as defined within the relevant section of the relevant Act. I know of none. I look to our officers to see if they know of any, and they do not. Therefore, just before calling this meeting to a close, I will now take an opportunity to express the hope that everyone had a very splendid festive season and to wish you all a somewhat belated Happy New Year. And on that note, I'll bring the meeting to a close.